everybody, thanks for watching. Now, I want to get back into the Serpentine Energy, the Reptilian Brain. Put out a lot of information on that lately. We talked about it in part 3 of Mystery School. We talked about it in the Meditation DVD. We talked about it in the new DVD about the Metal Netter, about, just understanding the reptilian brain and what all the reptilian symbolism really represents. It really goes into a lot of different aspects of Satanism and the Bible itself, and understanding the true message of the Bible and what the Bible is talking about. So when you understand the reptilian lower brain that is assigned to things like everything that basically came out of Pandora's box, jealousy, rage, materialism, most of your bad deeds, the things that you're really going to cling on to, really has to deal with the reptilian brain. So again, we talked about how we fell because of the serpent, the reptilian brain. We fell because of materialism, because of wanting to be in the materialistic realm and wanting materialism more than spirituality. So we're dealing with that now. And when you understand what Satan represents as far as that aspect of materialism, you can see why he's the God of this world, as the Bible says. So when you look at the Bible in these aspects, we can see exactly what it's talking about. So when we talk about the Serpentine energy and Kundalini rising, it's talking about the energies of the spine. We talked about how everything basically flows through the spine. Your movement, all that energy is coming from the spine. It comes from the brain, beginning with your consciousness, creating the energy that travels down the jet, down the spine, that is allowing you to move. So when you understand what meditation, you basically gathering that energy and, healing your body, basically what the medical caduceus is explaining. So to get into that whole thing with the medical caduceus, you look at the metaphysics of it, defined it in the Bible. So, with the whole story with, in Numbers, remember in the book of Numbers, you had the Israelites, traveling through the desert, basically wandering, and they wanted to take a shortcut through a town that they couldn't cut through. So God basically told Moses to tell them, hey, we got to go around. And, and them walking around, they was complaining, people dying, and why you took us out of Egypt, to have us die in the desert and all this and that, and God got pissed because they was complaining. So what did he do? He sent fiery serpents. So fiery serpents is just like, another way of saying, when you get bit by a poisonous snake, that, it burns. So fiery serpent. So the snakes was killing off the Israelites. And then finally, Moses like, people dying, what we're going to do? So God tells Moses to basically take up a staff and place one of the serpents on the staff, and everybody that sees the serpent on the staff will basically be healed and survive and live. So the whole metaphysics of that, of course, is the serpent on the medical caduceus. So it's talking about Kundalini rising. The 2 wings represent the corpus callosum, and the third eye is the ball at the top. So basically, if you get this energy, you heal yourself. This is what they're talking about with meditation. It's basically what the Egyptians was talking about with the Sikkim, which basically is your your chi or your energy or whatever, healing you and healing your body. The metaphysics is in the Bible. So in John 3, remember Jesus compared himself to the serpent, just like Moses in the wilderness lifted up the serpent, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. And basically, the whole serpentine energy, the Kundalini rising, is also a symbol for rebirth. Jesus basically, died and came back, rebirth. And that's basically what happened to him when he was lifted up. So, understanding that you find so much symbolism of the serpent in the Bible is trying to tell you a bunch of different things that we touched on in many videos about the serpentine energy. It's the reason why Satan is called the serpent or the dragon, the reptilian, all dealing with the reptilian brain. As we talked about before, about everything that we are doing, our civilization is basically based on the reptilian brain, and everything is about materialism and not spirituality. And when you get into everything that we see with the so-called Illuminati and all of the entertainers, repping Baphomet and so-called Satan worship and devil worship, it is the worship of materialism in the materialistic world. So, a lot of people had more questions about this stuff, and I wanted to touch on it because it's a very big part of what we do and what we getting into with the last videos. So when you understand that aspect, and I put it in part 3 of the truth about the truth of identity about Satan and everything like that, because that's basically what it is. That's basically the end all be all. When you understand Satan as the reptilian brain, the lower brain, and how he basically is ruling everything, because we are basically a lower brain, reptilian brain society. So because a lot of idiots on the internet, YouTube or what have you, put out videos, a lot of religious fanatics who believe that, the whole symbolism of Satan and, Baphomet and, even with the Egyptian stuff, all that stuff has to do with Satanism. A lot of people has ran with that. A lot of people chose not to dig more deeper into the information because they don't want to be, touching on that Satan stuff. And I can understand that because I was in the same boat, years and years ago. But, I had basically, got up the courage to dig more into the occult and esoteric books and start to understand what this stuff is all about. So when you see people throwing up the devil horns and wearing all the satanic stuff, it's just to show that they understand what the stuff is truly about. So, for people who take the Bible literally, first of all, when you just go back to the whole story of in Numbers with the Israelites, if people actually believe that stuff happened, that would be something that is sick and crazy of God. One, to just, because you have the Israelites dying and complaining for, walking around in the wilderness for decades, for God to basically send poisonous snakes to kill them off because they was complaining about dying is sick. And then what's even sicker is for him to basically have Moses take a snake and put it on a stick and have him look at it in order to be healed. You got to understand that that's a metaphorical story and it's something that is not real that actually happened. If so, and this is a God that you follow, then, you're crazy. That's something sick and crazy that, God would do. But it's a metaphorical story, just one of the many, trying to get you to understand about Kundalini energy, about the energy you have in yourself, about, understanding about the reptilian brain and not just it as a bad thing, but also a good thing, because you need it to basically unite with your higher self, the higher brain, in order to become one, to achieve that oneness, the balance of basically duality. So we got into that in part 1 of Saturn, Satan, what the Bible was about, especially in the Old Testament. So when you understand that, when you get into that, and you start looking at things around the world, you can see the direction that we're headed in. Now, the key is not to get trapped by the reptilian brain, and to understand that you need to balance it. You need the masculine and feminine energy balance coming together, yin yang kundalini. The problem is we are so male, so lower brain and not higher brain, which is why the Bible is so male dominated. That's another symbol was trying to give you. It's so heavily male dominated. And when you pay attention to the parables and the metaphorical story, or the main parable of the Bible that we got into in that Scan the Bible Christianity Finally Explained, we see that it's talking about the woman. Even when Jesus is talking to Nebuchadnezzar, when he's saying to him about, so shall the Son of Man basically be lifted up. He was talking to him about, being reborn, coming back through the womb. So again, a lot of the stuff is pointing to getting that feminine energy along with the masculine energies, and uniting the lower serpentine brain with the higher brain, or the bird brain, the limbic system, what we talked about with Nekbet, representing the bird brain limbic system, and the third eye, which would be Wajet, the serpent. So this is what the Uraeus is symbolizing, the unity, not just of upper and lower Egypt, but of the higher and lower brain, and the Kundalini energy coming together with the third eye, and having you achieve a state of enlightenment, a state of being that is definitely different from normal man, which is why they need suits. What's called the living Horus, which is why, the Horus meaning the third eye. This is why they wear the headdress. So now it's no coincidence that when you go back to the ancient world, all of the ancient civilizations dealt with serpents. It was serpents in every ancient civilization, remember with the non-gods. We're going to talk about that in a DVD I got coming up on Buddhism and the black gods. But when you go back even to ancient Kemet, serpentine energy, serpents, it's everywhere. It was something that was just understood among the ancients until, the takeover of the European powers. So even when you go back and you start looking at all the ancient gods, you had all these black gods that all of a sudden, turned white. That all of a sudden basically went from, you had Indians and Asians worshiping black gods to Indians and Asians worshiping gods that was either lighter skin or gods that looked, like them, represented them, Indians and Asians. But when you go back, the further you go back, what you're going to find is the worship of black gods everywhere, and the Serpentine energy, the serpents. So all these ancient civilizations had something in common. The serpent was one, meditation was the other. So when people want to understand how to grow in consciousness, it begins with meditation. So even when you understand about the medical caduceus and the rising of Kundalini energy, it begins with meditation and building that energy at the base of the spine so that it rises up and begins to open the third eye. So all of this stuff is a metaphorical reference in the Bible and throughout so many religious books. But we got to understand that, we have for a long time black gods, gods that basically represented the majority of the people in the ancient world. Black gods was everywhere. Then the black seen gods, you might as well say, when you go back and look at all of the ancient carvings and depictions, you have Krishna being black, Buddha being black, and all these gods being black in the earliest carvings. And then all of a sudden, they are the way they are today. So you had these gods that were seen as black, and then all of a sudden we exchanged them for these, weirdo unseen gods. And, by the unseen gods, we're talking about Jesus, unseen. Nobody has seen him, or there is not a bunch of different civilizations depicting him on walls and carvings. And it's the same thing, with Islam and Muhammad or what have you, or Allah. It's just these unseen gods now. And the unseen gods that nobody has seen, nobody can claim, has taken over, versus the gods that was talked about throughout the ancient world. So again, when the Bible is talking about Satan being the god of this world, and as I talked about how the government is basically god of this world, how the government is basically Satan and controlling everything, what the Bible was saying is how you have Satan basically having everybody stuck on the material and the lower brain. So everything is about materialism, about, getting money and paying bills and getting cars. This is what the hip hop industry is representing. It's really basically all about the materialistic things, money, wealth, fame, and everything that deals with materialism. And we have been sucked into a society, a world that's based on that and not spirituality. And a lot of people will basically trade, their spirituality in for the money. So this is the whole thing when people say, you sold your soul for fame and fortune, because people will basically trade in their spirituality to get materialistic things, money, wealth, or what have you. A lot of people have done that, basically are doing that. You get some people who try to transition out of that and become spiritual, but as long as you have that kind of money, you are obsessed with the lower brain and keeping that money, which is why the Bible says that, it's going to be hard for a rich man to enter to the kingdom of heaven. It's going to be easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. So you get that whole understanding by having money, you got to keep it. So having money and materialism on the brain is going to hinder you, and meditation is not going to allow you to grow in consciousness, because you constantly have materialistic things at the forefront of your mind and not, spiritual things. You're constantly worried about paying bills and, having this car or that house or these clothes or sneakers or what have you. And that's at the forefront of what you really desire. You don't really desire the spiritualistic. You just really want it because you think it's something that, you should have. But your desire is more focused on the lower brain, the reptilian brain, dealing with materialism. And that's the problem. A lot of people don't know how to separate the two and don't know how to just be true to their spirituality. A lot of people really faking their own self out, thinking that they want to chase materialism, but really thinking they want to chase spirituality, but really they want to chase materialism. A lot of people do things just for materialistic stuff. And that's the purpose of everything that they're doing. Even if they say they want to do something spiritual, it's really to get some kind of recognition or fame or money or what have you, and they're not really focused on the spirituality of themselves. So again, meditation, even if you try to do it, which is why it don't work for a lot of people, because they're really still stuck on materialism and the lower brain, and it's tough for a lot of people to come out of that, because they're surrounded by this whole satanic system that we live in, that is lower brain. So when you understand that and you start becoming more conscious of that, it's easier for you to break free of it. That's why, one of the things people tell you, if you ever go seeing like a shaman, which none of you probably will here, or, somebody who deals in this stuff, they'll tell you to take all the money out your pocket and burn it. If you ever see a shaman and you want to understand spiritualistically how to grow, that's what he's going to tell you. It's going to blow your fucking mind. You're going to be like, what? You got $2,000 in your pocket. You're going to say, pull it out and burn it. If you can't do that, then you can't, move forward. So, it's just a lot of people is going to be stuck in the materialistic realm and the whole reptilian lower brain. And it has to do with materialism. This is why when you look at the $1 bill that has not changed and probably never will, when you look closer, it's like reptilian scales all over the dollar. People say, oh, you can see Satan in the dollar and all this and that. You got the eye in the back, which really represents the eye of Satan or the eye of Horus. Same thing when you really understand what it is. Reptilian lower brain, third eye. But it looks like reptilian scales, because it's representing the reptilian lower brain and Satan that basically has you controlled. The money's controlling you, and you don't have any way out because you don't know how to get out. So the best advice I always give people for that, getting past the whole materialistic part of it, is just being understanding of your, material situation. When you're stressing about money, you're stressing about this and that, this weighs heavy on your consciousness, and you can't pass that still worrying about, materialistic things. You have to understand the situation, and it is what it is, and you keep moving forward. I always tell people, when I talk about the Jedi, you remember watching Star Wars, listen to Yoda. Yoda was trying to tell you a lot of stuff that really matters when he said, train yourself to let go of everything that you fear to lose. That's basically the truth. And he was saying it in a meditative state and position. So this is one of the things you really have to train yourself to do, is to not worry so much about, materialism. And that includes people, being, just drawn in and attracted by a man or a woman, and just, being stuck on every word and everything that they do and trying to follow behind them without getting yourself ready. You got two choices, you either go spiritual wise or you go material wise. And as I talk about my videos, we already know what happens with those people who go, with material. You stay here, which is why, earth is hell. You come back. So understanding who you really are and what you really want from this experience in life is important. And, this is an experience. So, you got to take all the information you can take from it and use it to move forward. But, do yourself some good, because understanding it's not just about healing your body. It's about, if you take the right path, everything that you're trying to gain material-wise anyway, that come to you, but you will have the luxury of not, wanting for it. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. And people had asked me a couple questions about the Gaia. You're seeing it everywhere. You're probably seeing the commercials on Facebook. You're seeing it on YouTube. Again, I talked about in a couple of videos about what it really is, and it's just a lot of real good information mixed with a lot of falsity. These people understand that a lot of people have waken up, and they are trying to control consciousness and control the direction that people go in conscious-wise. And anybody who does their research is going to see that and pick up on it very easily. I'm not even going to really get too much into it. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Definitely grab the new DVD that is out now on the Book of the Dead. And it's basically really going into what the book is really about, and what was their thoughts, what they thought about the afterlife, and what they thought about what happens after you die, and the process of going through the afterlife, which, it's crazy. So definitely pick up that DVD. Thanks everybody who support, everybody who has donated to the GoFundMe. And yeah, see you guys next video. More to come. Thanks for watching.